Hey, what's up, Facebook folks? It's your old pal Schmucker here live at the Gordon Rec Center on the campus of Grace College with the brand new head coach of the Lancers, Scott Moore. What's up, buddy?
Josh, how are you, buddy? Good to see
I'm
you, man.
doing
Thanks
good.
for coming.
I'm super excited, so excited I'm throwing pens all over the place. But I'm so glad that you agreed to sit down
Thanks, man.
and kind of share a little bit of your story. And, I often get asked, they're like, how do you get some of these people to agree to sit down with you? And I'm like, I ask.
Well, that was good. No, I just got done mowing my grass. As a coach, you have no time to do anything, right? So I just got done cutting my grass for the first time in probably forever. And I got this message from this guy who's like, "Hey, I wanna talk about you." But I thought the reason why I wanted to sit down was just because your story was so interesting to me that I thought it was kind of neat that people want to hear my story. But I was just so drawn to yours that's kind of the reason why I wanted to sit down and do this.
And that's awesome. Before we get too far along, let's get the big stuff out of the way here. And video being made possible today by Boggs Automotive at 600 Lighter Drive in Warsaw. Call them 574-268-6360 to schedule your appointment today. You can also find them on Facebook. The link is in the description there, so be sure to check them out. And this evening, you'll want to make sure to tune back in because I'll be talking with the proprietor of Boggs Automotive about their new venture. They just acquired the Pit Stop on Center Street, so we'll be talking with Julie Toomstra at 6 o'clock tonight. But for now, we got Scott Moore, head coach of the Grace College Lancers.
Still doesn't it still doesn't sound official yet. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, Coach K had been there for so long, so
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to imagine somebody else leading that program. But as a fan sitting in the stands over the last few years, I've kind of watched him kind of take a step back, and you kind of take some more of that leadership. And it was absolutely no surprise when you made the announcement that you were the coach.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Well, I am married to my wife Bridget. We're going on 6 years now. My parents, I grew up just down the road in Columbia City, so people always ask, where do you live at? And I never tell them Warsaw. I can't tell them Warsaw because I can't let anybody know I'm a Tiger. I'm always an Eagle, baby. So we got to get that out of the way. But I was a Columbia City kid. My mom was in public education for a long time. She's a teacher for 30 plus years. My father worked for the United Telephone Company. And I have an older sister who's 10 years older. She's the artist and the talented one of the group. All the skill set that she received, I received zero of it. So if you're going to ask me to draw anything, it ain't happening. But my older brother, Matt, some are familiar with. Matt played here at Grace from 98 to 2002. He's a basketball coach in Fishers, Indiana, in Indianapolis. And then I got another guy that looks a lot like me. I call him my baby brother, but he is officially my twin, Marcus. We are 34, just turned 34 actually last Sunday, we're Indiana kids. We're your old school Indiana basketball family. I think that's what I can describe us as. Is we grew up in the time period. A lot of my life and childhood, like that's what we could point to is just Bob Knight, the Hoosiers, growing up wanting to be an Indiana, basketball player, and love Indiana high school. I think that was one thing too that kind of shaped who we were and why we love the game so much. Is that Indiana high school basketball back before even single class, before '97, just watching the Final Fours and watching the Damon Baileys and seeing some of those and hearing stories, even some of the older ones with Steve Alford and the Rick Mounts and stuff is just something you dreamed about doing. So had a chance to play in that game. I was in the state finals my senior year at Columbia City, and then that led us to here. Had a successful career at Grace. Met one of my mentors, obviously, Coach Kessler here. One of my best friends, honestly, to this day. And I got a chance to play after college, and God kind of took us all over the place and ended up decided this is what I figured I'd do for a career, which people say you're crazy, but it's been a blessing so far, and we're kind of just getting started.
That's awesome. And I tell you, Coach K he's on the list of people that I'm going to hunt down.
You need to. That will take a couple hours, so plan out your day.
That might be like we'll call that a mini series.
Yeah, you have to break that one up.
But he's definitely one on the list. And well, we would probably be remiss here if we didn't ask, who's your favorite basketball team? I mean, you can go pro, you can go high school, you can go NBA, you can go all three if you want.
You said basketball, so obviously
you can go sports team, period.
I'm a Lancer. I'm a Lancer fan, first and foremost. But growing up, we were Hoosier fans. That was our team. Believe it or not, loved basketball, loved high school basketball, loved the college and all that level. But our favorite sport, my favorite sports to cheer for was always football, baseball. So I always tell people it's probably one of my worst qualities. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. It's one of the few things that you can probably knock off points. I'm a hardcore Dallas fan, and then we are Sox fans, so I apologize. We don't really have any issue. I don't have anything to brag about for the last probably 10, 15 years. 2005 actually was the last time the Sox have won the World Series, but I got no beef with Cubs fans. I have to worry about Cleveland and Detroit and Kansas City my own time, so no beef. But those are my favorite teams.
That's such a great rivalry, and I tell you, my wife and I, we got married, and she's got some children. So my 13-year-old stepdaughter is a huge White Sox fan.
There we go.
So we got this big flag that says "A House Divided," and one side of the flag is the Sox, and the other side is the Cubs.
That's awesome.
So we kind of joke around as a family.
The problem is Cubs are blue, and as you can tell, I don't have a lot of love for the blue color. It's not in my wardrobe at home very much. So anything blue I try to stay away from outside of the one Cowboy blue that I have. That's the only one I'll be allowed to wear.
Well, when you can go back Cowboys and you talk like Emmitt Smith days where he used to create that guy a hole the size of a bus you could drive through. And
yeah, there's a reason why he's all-time leading yards as a running back.
I mean, back in junior high days, we used to joke around. It's like, well, no reason, it's no wonder why the guy has all the big rushing records. I mean, I could run through that.
All right. I understand.
So we're going to bust out some tough questions for you here, but have you ever faced any adversity in your life?
Any adversity? Yeah, man, I'm a twin. I've been facing adversity ever since I was born. One breadstick left, the first one to grab it, right? No, I don't know. We all face adversity, right? I think, my story is probably not. It's not similar to yours. I think what you dealt with in your situation is pretty, admirable. I tell people I've been very, very lucky. Come from a great family, come from a great situation where, I haven't had a lot of struggle, to be honest. Been very, very blessed in that. Obviously, we all have day-to-day struggles. I think just as men, as sinful men, I think we'd be crazy. We'd be lying if we didn't tell you that we don't struggle with certain things every single day. But, I think instead of just giving an example about certain adversity, just trying to figure out, as I've gotten older here, how you handle those things. And I tell my boys all the time on the team, it's a process. Everything's a process, right? Like you don't just, there is no 10-point shot in basketball. There is no just immediate cure for something. It's a process of just a daily attempt to get better. And we try to break that down as much as we can. I think my faith has become the ultimate kind of, it is the ultimate. It's the ultimate, forgiveness of anything that we struggle with. And again, it's something that you struggle with every day, but you're trying to create habits. So getting in the Word every day, spending time in prayer every day, and just understanding. Like I think a good thing to talk about was just with Easter being not far ago. Everybody talks about Christmas and they love Christmas, right? That's kind of the holiday. And Easter for me, I would say, is probably the most I'm able to kind of sit back and reflect and really be in awe of how truly thankful I am for that relationship. And You talk about adversity, you talk about struggles, you talk about things that we do every day. We're not worthy of what had happened, and just to understand what Christ did for us, for you and me, makes all those problems that we seem to have kind of fade away, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So just understanding where my faith lies and where my relationship is, I think I've been able, as I gotten older, to handle adversity much easier, because ultimately that's what matters. And if I can remember that, then I think we're okay.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of stole our next question, but and we'll get to that here in a minute. But when you talk about Easter, and I mean, one of my favorite things about it, and the reason why people always ask me what my favorite holiday is. Well, it's Easter, and part of the reason is because the resurrection and the death. I mean, there has to be death before there can be a resurrection. I mean, to somebody that fought like a 20-year battle with alcohol, and I mean the stuff that goes along with it, it's kind of hard to describe. I mean, I had my good moments, had my bad moments, and the faith was always there. I mean, I grew up in a very faith-driven home, went to a youth group. I was actually in my early 20s, spent some time at Warsaw Community Church as a youth leader, helping the kids, but then kind of fell so far into the addiction that it takes a hold of you before you realize it. But, laying there August 7th, 2016 in a hospital bed because you're trying to quit drinking, but you're so full of alcohol that your body just doesn't know what to do without it. So, I mean, just laying there on the bed, I mean, almost, I don't want to say angry, but it's like, you think you can do better than I can?
Yeah.
Fine. It's yours. It's like, I am giving up everything, and if you think you can do it better, then take it.
Yeah, I think those moments too, I think we are, you talked about it's 20 years, right? So again, it's not one of those things where it's just you wake up tomorrow and things are easy, it's done, you're good. And I think the misunderstanding too is when you become a Christian, right? Then okay, all of a sudden all your problems go away and life is great. And that is, I mean, there's nothing. That's not a true statement, right? It's we are still sinful creatures, sinful men, and I will say this: when it goes back to the adversity and goes back to like tough decisions, and you experience this obviously when you're laying there. Ultimately, I think the times when I fully gave up, right, and sincerely turned over my everything to Him, your will, that's when things changed.
Yeah.
Because we always, as humans, right, we come up with this idea that we say we want God to use us in ways and take us wherever He wants. But the problem is, as soon as He does, you go, wait a minute, that wasn't my plan. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to do this. I was just telling this to my class. It's funny. If you said 10 years ago that one point in my life I'd be coaching women's tennis, I'd say, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm terrible at tennis. Two, I've never coached women in my life. There's no way. But it's funny how God opened an opportunity, and I believe part of the reason why I'm sitting here today as the men's basketball coach at Grace College is because God opened an opportunity for me to be a head coach for a program. And so that's just a little example. When you finally just turn over and fully commit and say, Lord, whatever you have, I'm in. And I tell people all the time, Proverbs 16:9 says, in our heart we plan our course, but the Lord establishes our steps. And we want to have this idea, and we can get these paths that we want to go here, here, here. I want to be this. But man, hang on, right? Because God's going to take you. If you give up to Him, God's going to take you on a journey that you can't even imagine. It's unbelievable.
Oh, and I mean, you talk about that, and you think so many times it's like, yeah, we want you to drive the bus, but we want to tell you what direction it needs to go.
Yeah.
And so many times I think we give things up, but then the minute it kind of goes off the beaten path,
Sure.
we're like, nope. I want to get back where it's comfortable. I want to get
Absolutely.
back where I can handle things. But I mean, I'm a firm believer that God doesn't lead us to anything that He won't also bring us through,
No question.
and provide the resources and the people to help get us through.
Yep.
So I mean, there's so much of that. And I mean, the next question we got here is, how does your faith help you overcome the challenges in your life?
Yeah, this is a learning process, right? Again, you continue daily, just trying to dive deeper and get a better understanding. It's everything. I think, if I can talk on one thing, I talk on marriage here. My wife and I are going on 6 years here in August, and ultimately, every decision that we make always goes back to that foundation. So there are things that we make decisions on, or that I'll make decisions on, but at the end of the day, it always goes back to the core of our relationship that we have with our Savior. So, it's everything. Like, again, it's a part of our job, right? Grace College, and this is not actually my job. This is my ministry. So teaching young men who are 18, 19, 20 years old how to live life. I mean, that's what Coach K did for me. Basketball is a game that we love to play, and when you're 18, that's all you're thinking about. Thinking about hoops and whatever, I'll get a degree, whatever, I'll figure out marriage and all that down. I just want to hoop. And you come to realize pretty quickly that there's more to life than just sports and basketball. And I think my time here at Grace with him, with Coach Kessler, he was able to show me that and just make me a better man. And because of it, I'm a better husband, hopefully one day be a good father. I'm a better brother, better son. I think, again, that all stems back to just your relationship that you have with your Savior.
Yeah, I definitely second that. I mean, it's when you have good people and you surround yourself with good people.
Yep.
I mean, one of the first things I learned in sobriety was you're the accumulation of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So I'm thinking, okay, what 5 people am I spending the most time with? And the problem, it wasn't that those 5 people, is that there weren't really 5 people that I was spending a whole lot of time with. I mean, it was a lot of isolation, a lot of just spending time by myself. So I think having the mentors and the people that have done what you want to do, and that was another thing that I tried to implement into place was, okay, I'm going to find people that have done what I want to do, and I'm going to learn and soak up as much knowledge as possible on how to get there. I mean, in order to know anywhere you're going, 1, you have to have a destination, and 2, you got to kind of have a roadmap of some sort to figure out how to get there. But
I just heard, it's funny you're saying that, and what came to my mind was our pastor this last Sunday said a comment that kind of stuck with me. He goes, "Hey, when you pass away, you have 6 people that are going to carry your casket. You have 6 people that," and I was like, well, that, of course there'll be 6 people. But what you're saying is, do you have those people in your life, right, that mean something to you, that pour into you, and are you surrounding yourself with people that are making you better? And that's something too, as you get older, and you've experienced this, I've experienced this, that you start to figure out cutting out people in general is tough to do in your life. I know you could probably speak on that too, especially with alcoholism. Is sometimes there's people that don't improve you as a person, right? And so that is tough. I've had to do that lately with some situations where, does this make me better? Does this person make me better? If not, are they adding value, right? And if they're not adding value, you don't necessarily need to just cut them off and get rid of them, but I think they have to have a lesser role in your life, and vice versa. Those people that do impact you, that do change you on a daily basis, that do impact your life in more ways than you could probably see, those are the people we need to spend more time with, and those are hopefully our 6 people that when time comes and goes, that they're carrying our casket.
Well, and you think about too, back in, I mean, one of the hardest parts to read through in the Bible is the Old Testament. You get into like Exodus and Numbers, and it's
you go cross-eyed pretty quick,
and it's pretty boring. But in the big picture, when you think about it, I mean, it's God setting up society,
right? Stories
and stories and cutting things out and setting kind of rules and regulations, and He's cutting some of this stuff out and some of these people out because it kind of goes around the premise of, is what you're doing and who you're talking to and who you're associating with distracting you from worshiping Him and bringing others closer to Him? And so, I mean, I think that's one of the things when I go through just in my daily life, I'm like, okay, is what I'm doing distracting somebody else's walk from getting closer to Christ? Because, I mean, ultimately, if I am, then there's got to be change.
That's a good point.
I mean,
that's good.
If likewise, if somebody else, like my wife, I mean, we have talks pretty regularly about the stuff that we do and the people that we associate with. And it's not that I don't hang out with people that aren't Christ followers or wherever they're at in their life. I mean, that's not where I'm going with that. But ultimately, I mean, we want to make sure that we are the best example of what a relationship with Christ looks like and be as human and as transparent and authentic as possible.
Definitely.
Because struggle like anybody else does. I mean, there's times where it's like, did that really just come out of my mouth?
For sure. No, you nailed it, man. Definitely.
But who or what would you say inspires and encourages you?
People, like, not necessarily just specific people. I'm a people person. I like being around people. I like hearing stories. I gave an example this week. I just taught class yesterday. I teach in exercise science and I teach in our business department as well. And I'm in a facility management class. And one of the end of the year projects that we have to do is I make them create their own facility for our college. And it can be any facility they want. Typically it's a sports facility, but usually it's some sort of student union or something like that. Or everyone has a pool, everyone has a movie theater, right? Yeah. Everyone has a Chick-fil-A. But it's a really cool project. I went back, I was somewhat joking, but I'm very, very serious in the fact that my sister stole all the artistic ability that my brothers have, including myself as the worst. So it's kind of a neat project. They have to do a poster board, they have to create, they have to draw, and I'm sitting in the back there. I've always been inspired by people who can do things that I cannot do. And, a person who can spin a basketball on their finger, okay, that's fine. Like, I can do that on every finger I got. Like, that's neat. But people who, musicians, people who are in just plays, and people who can act, and people who can draw, and just artistic people in general, man, I love seeing that stuff. And I was literally just moved yesterday watching these kids. First time I ever had a 3D, instead of doing the PowerPoint and doing the actual poster board, they made a 3D tour of their facility. So they had this CAD program or whatever that they made, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm sitting here giving out paper tests still in 2019, and this person's giving me 3D
guided
tour. And so that's what I mean. Every day I'm trying to be aware of people.
Oh, somebody wants tagged here. We'll tag him in that.
Cool. But other things, just Coach Kessler's obviously been. My parents are huge. We're really close. As far as basketball, there's coaches you like, right? There's coaches. I love Buzz Williams. I'm a big fan of his. I was a big fan of Shaka Smart. Everybody, Brad Stevens is phenomenal. But I don't have conversations with those guys. It may be an email that you exchange with one of them one time down the road, but I have conversations with my older brother, who is one of the best X's and O's basketball coach that I've ever been around. Coach K, one of the best life basketball coaches I've ever been around. And just those people inspire me every day. Seeing people, I'm a workout guy. That's part of my job is the strength and conditioning and fitness and running the facility. And seeing people come in here who want to make a change in their life, you being your situation for 20 years, wanting to be a change in your life, that's what inspires me every single day. So every day when I wake up, I sit there and I think about, man, what am I going to learn from someone today? And that's what I've tried to do here the last probably 3 or 4 years, is really just learn something new every day. And typically that comes from a person who I just have a conversation with. This is the first time you and I have really ever talked, you know what I mean? So just, this will probably be going down in my book, something that I learned today that I was inspired by.
I don't know if I'll learn you anything, but maybe.
No,
I mean,
sure.
the hope is always that, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I wake up and I have a routine that I do every day. Call it my personal development time. So, I always put a positive post, like I have a great day post on Facebook, and share the same one on Twitter. But part of the reason doing that is just because I want to be an encouragement to other people. And it kind of goes along the nature of, I just want you to think. I want people to kind of rethink how they're doing things.
Sure.
Like maybe about their posts, maybe about, I think today was about the memories that you think about. Sometimes I think we tend to embellish things in our memory and remember them for being more than what they actually were. And that can tend to, we kind of lie to ourselves, kind of create this greater image than what
Sometimes you can believe that lie after a while, right? You talk yourself into it.
Yeah, and it's almost like
Sure.
you're lying to yourself about how good things actually were, and a lot of that stems from the alcoholic past. I could probably look back and remember things for being a lot greater, and what the mentality does, and it wants to tell you, and a part of that is probably the enemy lying to us and being like, oh, hey, don't you remember how good it was when you were doing these things and relaxing with your buddies and just drinking beers and having a good time? And it's like, well, no.
Actually, that was pretty painful.
It's like, no, that really probably wasn't as good a time as what I remember.
Yeah.
So, that's part of why I do what I do. And I hope that people can take it and learn from it and maybe process it through their brain and apply their own personal life experiences to it, so that way going forward they can maybe make a difference in somebody else's life.
For sure.
The guy yesterday that I talked with, Scott Leeper, he used the acronym Reach One, Teach One. So he's like, you reach somebody so that they can go forward and teach somebody else. So, your story could affect somebody, and something maybe that I hear today, I can go forward and tell them, well, like, hey, I heard this from Coach Moore. We were sitting down talking, so maybe you can apply this to your life.
Yeah.
It may be later this afternoon, it may be tomorrow, but I think one of the coolest things about watching God work is those connections that you make. And I'm a firm believer that there is no such thing as coincidence or luck. Everything has a God-driven purpose and a reason for why it happens.
Sure.
So
that's awesome, man.
So what is something about you that most people don't know? Maybe a hidden talent, maybe...
I'm not that talented, I'm going to be honest. I can talk. I don't know if that's talent, but I don't know. Most people know I'm ambidextrous. That's something. I'm kind of weird. I write left-handed. I'm probably dominant left-handed, but throw a baseball right-handed. I could throw a football left-handed pretty good. Golfing right-handed. Basketball always played right-handed, but I'm left-handed dominant dribble-wise. Not people know. This is interesting, actually, just because it was my birthday. I would say most people don't know this. So a couple years, I would say back, I think 28 or 29, so I just turned 34. So 5 or 6 years ago, I decided that on or around my birthday, I was going to do something that I've never done in my life before. Every single birthday that I had. And I'm kind of a thrill seeker in general. I like to do things that just kind of get my blood flowing a little bit.
Yeah.
So we started, again, like I said, I started 20. It's just me. My wife she loves me, but she's like, look, I want nothing to do with that. I support you. Just don't jump out of a plane and don't hurt yourself. And so, I went to, I've done snorkeling, and I've done I've flown my own plane. I have been to an NBA playoff basketball game. Like, that was one of them. This year, I decided, it hadn't happened yet. Actually, I get on a plane next week to go to Phoenix, but I have scheduled, I've always wanted to drive an Indy racing car. So I got it scheduled. I'm going to drive an Indy racing car. I've got 3 laps around a track. The thing goes, I think I'm allowed to go 140 miles an hour. I've never hit 100 in my life, but just like, that's a story. So I don't think many people know that. It's just something that's kind of a me thing. You call it like a bucket list, but it's kind of my continuous life bucket list. I want to be sitting at 50, 60, 70 years old and go, man, I've done a lot of cool things. And I've been blessed. I've been to 15 different countries. I've played basketball all over the world. I've seen a lot of places. I've done a lot of things. I've been in the Eiffel Tower. I've been on the Great Wall of China. I've done so many neat things already, but now just constantly, year by year, looking forward to what am I going to do next. So that's probably something. I play the keyboard a little bit. Like I said, I'm not good, but I was drawn to the idea of musicians and people who are so talented. And someone told me I had long fingers one time, that I'd be good at the piano. I was like, oh, okay, I'll try it. No, I'm terrible at it, actually. But the keyboard is something that probably most people don't know. I'm pretty transparent. I think most people know quite a bit about me, but I bet they don't know too much about the birthday thing. So
That's interesting. I mean, I can't try to think about driving in an Indy car going 140
I'm excited.
miles an hour.
I'm going to be honest. I'm a little nervous. I really don't want to I just don't want to crash in anything, and I just don't want to pay for anything that I just ruined. So I'm not even worried about going 100 plus miles an hour. I'm more worried about if I run this thing into the side guardrail or something.
Yeah.
So no, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It's just me. I'm usually the only one that do these events.
Is it going to be going around a loop?
Yeah, I think I'm not doing a street course. I'm going straight away. It's 3 laps total. We'll see. I don't know. I have no idea what to expect. It's all paid for. I'm ready to roll. We'll figure it out. I'll take some video and send it back to you. How about that?
That sounds great. You better be careful, with the Indy 500 coming up here.
Yeah, I know.
A month. They're
right.
going to be
I
looking out for
won't
you.
watch any NASCAR movies or any. Here's a reference for any Cole Trickle videos.
Cole Trickle, yes.
These guys are like, I have no idea who
Who's
Cole
Trickle? Cole, we can't pit
Days
now.
of Thunder, baby. I love it.
Can't pit now. We're eating ice cream.
Now we're showing our age a little
Yeah.
bit for some of these people.
Here's another one, and these are usually some of the hardest questions that people have to answer on these, but what is your favorite classic cartoon?
Classic cartoon. Oh man, Ninja Turtles, baby. We grew up in the Ninja Turtle era. Marcus and I had every Ninja Turtle toy you could imagine. I mean, we had a suitcase full of the little action figures, tons and tons. But yeah, we were turtle guys. The classic cartoons, they were good. Tom and Jerry was always good. Roadrunner was always good. Any of the Looney Tunes in general, we grew up on, right? But Ninja Turtles by far was it.
Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, and
Leonardo.
Yes, the purple, orange,
red and blue. The painters.
I can't remember.
That's awesome.
Which one was which, but
good question. That's the best question we've had so far. That's good.
Who is Scott Moore at his core?
Oh, man, now you got deep on me all of a sudden.
We went
from cartoon to core.
Deep.
I don't know. I try to be. I'm a fairly positive outlook guy. Pretty energetic. Pretty just. I always just wanted to be enjoyable to be around. I know that's simple. I know that sounds almost cliche, but I didn't want to be the main attraction of the party or anything like that. But I always wanted people to, at the end of the day, respect me, but also just enjoy being around me. And I think that's when I got into the life coaching and I got into just coaching in general, right? You're surrounded by so many people. If you're kind of crummy to be around, it's just, you're not going to be good at your job, because kids and people just won't give everything they have for you. And that's what it is, right? I'm in a profession where I'm asking these kids to give me everything they have. And by the way, trust me in the meantime. Well, if I'm not enjoyable to be around, then I'm not going to get that. But if they trust me and they respect me, they don't have to like me. I don't think it's liking. I just think it's just enjoyment to be around. I think that's ultimately who I am at my core is, I probably have a lot of my mom's personality. She's always just been, I've always seen her just be such a servant's heart, such just a joy to be around. And every time, I grew up in the situation where I was in school where my mom taught, and having people continue to come up to you and tell you how much they love your mom, that never got old, right? You're like, I know, she's the best. I mean, seriously. So, I think, I'm not real deep. I'm not real sophisticated. Marcus, my twin brother, makes fun of me all the time. He thinks I'm the worst dresser in the world. So I'm not sitting here wearing, expensive clothes and nice shoes. I'm a regular guy who loves life, who loves people. And I try to see the best in things if I can. And, I try to be the best version of myself that I can be, for sure.
I think that's great. God gives us gifts and personalities, like specific personalities for reasons. And I think you're excelling in the personality that he's given you. I think it reflects, just in the short time that we've sat down and had the conversation. I love it. Do you have any advice for anyone chasing down a dream or maybe aspiring to be a coach?
Advice. Well, I've been coach for about 11 minutes so far, so I don't know how much advice I have. I'll say this. I learned this, and this goes back earlier. We were talking about kind of like the daily, grind of things. And I don't like that word grind because I think grind can be a negative term. But there is a daily approach that we need to attack each day to achieve something, right? And it creates repetition and habits, and ultimately, perfecting and making great habits is what the best of the best do. You talk about football, you talk about the New England Patriots, where they have a system in place and they do the simple things better than everybody else. And that's what it is, right? It's learning to do the easy things better than anyone else. I heard a story one time, and this kind of goes back to maybe advice to coaches. There was a story about a second lieutenant. I'm a history guy. I'm a World War II guy. I grew up. I had secondary ed, social studies was my major, and a guy heard the story. He said that there was a second lieutenant one time, and he had a conversation with a general who was retired, and he went to interview the general. He said, "Hey, somebody who is aspiring to be a general one day, how do I do that? What are the secrets to move from second lieutenant all the way to be a general?" And the general started to say things that were pretty simple. He said, just from a day by day, minute by minute, just do your work and do it harder than everybody else. Show up on time, make your bed, do the right things, say the right things, don't alienate people. And it was just very, very simple life advice. And afterwards, the second lieutenant goes, "So wait a minute. If I do all those things and just make it a daily approach, then I'll become a general?" And the general laughed and said, "No, then you'll become a first lieutenant." And he goes, "Well, how do I become a general?" And he goes, "Do it all over again. Do it all over again. Do it all over again." I think that's the point, right? It's like, and I could tell kids, everybody today, everything is such a microwave where we want everything instantly. From a coaching example, since we're talking about this, is everybody sees the coach or the position or the money, and they want that now. So they're going to get into it, and then it's going to be, well, when is my break? When is it my time? And I was that way, 10 years ago. This is my 10th year doing this, and I think the first couple, I was like, okay, when am I going to have my job? I was a good player. I was on a good team. I have good connections who could make phone calls for me. I think I'm ready to be a coach. And I'm just like, no, you're an idiot, actually. You're not ready to be a coach. You have so much to learn. And that's my advice for younger kids now who are getting into this. It's doing the right things every single day. Someone will notice, but it takes time, right?
Yep.
And we all want that immediate. And it just doesn't happen. Some people it does, But that's not the norm. That's the exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are the best at what they do have gone through this process and have taken a couple bumps along the way. I think that you don't want to ruin the opportunity to grow by fast forwarding taking a shortcut. So my advice to anyone trying, just in business or profession in general, is, again, not the grind. I don't want that to use that word, but enjoy the day-to-day improvements and learning that takes place. Ask questions. I think one thing that I've gotten better at is sincerely asking for feedback constantly. We have this image of ourselves, but your image of yourself is not always image of what people around you are. And so you ask, well, is perception reality? Well, it can be. If these 9 people on your basketball team think you're this way and this one person doesn't, I'm going to guess that the 9 people probably have more truth than the one person who likes you, right? So that's what it is. You don't want to shortcut those opportunities, and you want to continually ask, how can I become better in these areas? It's not to take offense to. It's just we're trying to become the best version of ourselves as we can. And if you're not willing to get feedback, then I think you're cutting yourself a little short.
Yeah, and I think you touched on that there. The feedback is where a lot of people, dare I use the term, get butt hurt.
Yeah.
But I mean, we think when people are giving us feedback that it's a bad thing. We immediately go to the defensive and take the feedback, process it, learn to apply it. Because not everything that people tell you is, I don't think they mean it in a hurtful or mean way. Sure, there probably are people that they tell you that stuff just because they're jealous, spiteful, bitter, whatever. But I mean, I think for the most part, I mean, there's probably some truth to it regardless. So I think learning from it, and you talk about the process, and I know I had this image in my mind. It's like, okay, when I get sober, things are going to get a whole lot better, like
just
snap
like that.
of a finger. Well, here I am 2.5 going on 3 years later, and I get a decent job. Well, I hurt my back, so now I've been off of work, and I'm technically kind of unemployed with a back injury, and I've been dealing with workers' comp for over a year. And I tell you, that is probably one of the most hardest processes I've ever been through. I mean, it's been even harder than the sobriety to deal with day-to-day pain, and to be sitting here right now with a herniated and bulging disc in my lower back. I mean, it's painful constantly. But to sit and watch people in the recovery world, maybe in the business world, maybe in whatever, gaining success, doing things that I'm doing on a daily basis, and it's like, well, I mean, I fall into that trap. It's like,
Definitely.
when's my turn?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to be selfish, and it's like, okay, when's my turn? When do I get my big break? When do I get? And I have to constantly remind myself daily that it's a journey. It's not a destination. God's purpose for my life isn't somebody else's story.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to go through. You look at, I mean, people like Moses wandered around in the desert or in the wilderness for 40 years, and I still don't think that he ever got to the promised land. And people like Paul were so rough around the edges in the beginning, and I mean, look at what Paul does and what the transformation he goes through. So, I mean, I think constantly reminding ourselves that it's a journey, and that somebody else's story is.
Yeah, I think that's important to understand too, because I think we struggle with that. We're a comparative world.
Yep.
And even myself, when you have a twin brother, right? You're constantly comparing and competing.
I can't even imagine.
But that's what we do. We always we take a look at someone else's situation or someone else's life, and we want, and that's what you had mentioned is, it's about our story. Our story, we're not the same. We didn't grow up the same. We didn't have the same situation. We may want what other people have, but God's got his own plan for us. And that's the hardest thing. I think one of the hardest things we struggle with is trying to want other people's stories. Because the funny thing is, on the outside, you could see that person and you could want that story. And if you wouldn't know it, they may take a look and be asking the same thing about you. Man, I wish I had your story. I wish I was that, because you don't know what I'm struggling with or what I'm dealing with. So, yeah, that's a tough lesson.
Yeah, I mean, I love the quote that says, "Never compare your behind the scenes with somebody else's highlight reel."
Yeah, no question.
And it's like, yeah,
That's great.
got it. So, last thing we got for you here. What excites you most about taking over as head coach of the Lancers?
Well, it hasn't really sunk. I'm going to be honest, it hasn't sunk in. I've had, I'm doing my other job still and trying to finish recruiting and finish coaching staff and things like that. But I'm excited to kind of have a small part in leading young men's lives. I think that I walk into work. This is not a job. I told you that. I do not feel like I actually have a job. This is a ministry. This is the best job in the world. And the fact that, I get to call this as my employment is incredible. But just the relationships with the kids, right? Having a little bit more in depth now, it stops with me. It did stop with Coach K, so it would get through me, but at the end of the time. So there's a little bit of scary point to that, right, is now I'm the one that has to make those decisions ultimately. But I think that I've learned enough in the last 10 years, especially the last 7 with Coach K, that I'm still going to be surrounded by people that I trust and love. Coach K is going to be moving across campus to a different building, so I can go over there whenever I need to. Hey, I'm struggling with this. Well, what's your advice? He's helping me with the recruit today because I really want his opinion on some stuff. So I'm just looking forward just for the opportunity to finally say I've been wanting to do this for a long, long time since I was a freshman in high school. I wanted to be a basketball coach. And now that I finally am, it's just, I'm kind of in that honeymoon feeling, to be honest with you still. But yeah, I hope it's successful. I hope we bring a lot of people in just to watch our young kids. I hope when people come watch our team, they say, man, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, super excited about it, buddy. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me
Thanks,
today.
Josh. Appreciate it, man.
And we'll kind of wrap this up here and remind folks that today's video is being made possible by Boggs Automotive at 600 Leiter Drive in Warsaw. Give them a call, 574-268-6360 to schedule your appointment, or you can find them on Facebook. The link is in the description here. Thanks again to Coach Scott Moore for sitting down with us this morning. And this evening we'll be sitting down with Julie Tuinstra, the proprietor of Boggs Automotive, talking about their latest purchase, the Pit Stop on Center Street. So we're super excited about that. Thanks again, Coach.
Awesome. Thanks,
I appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks, guys.
You guys take care. Stay dry out there and have a terrific Thursday.